we will receive the first report of the Corporate Director for Communities, and that is an update on the Caira Heat Scheme. Over to you, please, Janine.
Oh, thank you very much, Leader. For the purposes of the recording, I'm Janine Nightingale and I'm the Communities Director, Corporate Director of Communities, I should say, shouldn't I? So, Leader, the purpose of this report is to update Cabinet on recent activity in relation to the Caira Heat Scheme and to seek a decision on the way forward with the project, and also to seek authority for us to submit a reprofile of the scheme to WEFO, Welsh European Funding Office, who are funding the scheme for us. Now, you will recall that we had a Cabinet report on this back in January of this year, and that provided an update on the scheme, and it agreed on an options appraisal would be undertaken, and that was to find suitable alternative delivery methods for the low carbon heat scheme that met the requirements of the ERDF funding. Now, I think what is important to note at this point in the report is that this is a fully funded demonstrator model scheme, the Caira scheme, but there are 4 decision gateways set out in table 1 of your report that I'd like to draw your attention to at paragraph 3.5, which does allow the scheme to close should we not have enough progress. Now, these are namely, the first one, not enough mine water to proceed. Of course, we wouldn't continue with the scheme if that was the case. The business case is not viable, we wouldn't proceed. If it wasn't possible to appoint a design, build, operate, maintain contractor, as in the procurement fails or nobody's interested, and of course if we have insufficient households signing up to the scheme, for all those reasons we would discontinue. But if I can direct you to section 4 of the report, it sets out the options appraisal that we've undertaken. Now, I'm not going to take you through this in any detail. There are 6 options there, option A to option F. But what I want to explain to you, I'm sure you've read the report, is all of these have been assessed against a number of criteria. They've been assessed against financial viability, the cost, timescale, compliance and funder requirements. So the Decarbonisation Programme Board considered this options appraisal, and what they are recommending to Cabinet is that option 4 is taken forward for Caira, and that is a blended model and package of schemes. Now, what this will include is from paragraph 4.4 onwards, it will include a mine water scheme for Caira Primary School, and that will be a demonstrator model which won't be connected to homes at this point. It'll include a scheme for the Tudor estate, where we connect homes on the estate to a small-scale heat pump district heat network. Now, just to let you know, we need about 70 homes on that estate in order for that scheme to be viable, and we're working with Valleys to Coast on that. And the third part of this package is a private wire electricity supply from the Llynfi Afon Renewable Energy Park to homes in Caira to provide low-cost, low-carbon power. So this approach, this basket approach, has been well received actually by WEFO, and it could, because it's very much in the spirit of community energy, and they've requested they'd like to see a reprofile from us now at BCBC. So what are the next steps for us then? Well, the next steps are to secure agreement from the Coal Authority to extract the water and have licenses, to freeze the design now so we can go to tender and deliver by the deadline for WEFO by June 23, to submit a reprofiled project delivery budget to WEFO, and then if anything significantly changes, we will come back and report to you at Cabinet. So if I direct you to section 8 of the report, this is all about the finances. And just to reiterate really that this Caira scheme is fully funded, a fully funded demonstrator model up to commencement of heat and power delivery. The total cost of the scheme is just under £10 million, 9,732,000, and that's split between capital and revenue, fully funded. The one thing I must draw your attention to, though, is that there's £500,000 revenue included in this model from the Welsh Government under the Small Business Research Initiative, SBRI. Now, Welsh Government has said this money can be used for Caira, but we're awaiting formal confirmation of that. So Pinsent Mason are our legal advisors, and they've agreed that we can use it in the model. So if WEFO do not accept the use of that SBRI, then we may have to reprofile the project. I think that's very unlikely at this stage, but I think I must draw your attention to that one risk. The other thing, of course, is we won't get any certainty of the ongoing revenue implications of this scheme until post-completion, until we've put the borehole in and we know what depth it's going to, until we know, for instance, the number of homes that are going to be involved in the scheme. Now, the current financial models do suggest that the scheme may run at a small shortfall. Of course, we wanted to have a break-even position, and the delivery model will be subject to a further Cabinet report once we get the other side of the procurement piece. So let me take you then to section 9 of the report, please, Leader. It's the recommendations. So today we're recommending that you approve this blended scheme, a blended approach to delivery, that you delegate authority to us so we can submit a reprofile to WEFO, and that if that reprofile is accepted, delegate authority to us so we can accept the grant monies on behalf of BCBC. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that update, Janine. Councillor Baldwin, please.
Thank you, Leader. And this is my first report presenting at Cabinet today. So just the same as Councillor Rowlands having her first one as chair, I'm here as the first Cabinet member, or my first time as Cabinet member for this report. So I'd just like to propose and move that report, and because it is such an important demonstrator project and the importance of it when it comes to our 2030 decarbonisation agenda as well. This is about making sure we look at a whole host of measures and methods out there for us to be able to meet the agenda for 2030. I think it's really important to recognise that it is fully funded and that we are being able to use all of those other people's money to be able to demonstrate and build all that evidence before we're able to decide on what we and how we go forward. But in recognising that as well, I'd like to recognise the amount of work that Councillor Richard Young, the previous Cabinet member, placed on this, what was the Caira mine water at the time, and we've all heard him talk about Caira mine water on a very long period. But this just goes to show how demonstrator projects can evolve. This is now the Caira heat network, so we're recognising that it will look at a variety of other options, and also thank the work of Councillors White, Howells and Davis from Caira, who are at a meeting tomorrow when it comes to looking at these different options as well. So yeah, in my first report, in my first meeting as Cabinet member, I'm happy to approve this report, or propose this report, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Baldwin. And can I just say that you've taken the role like a duck to water, or duck to mine water. And I know you're working very closely with Janine and her team, and I know that will continue. And I know that you'll take a lead on several very, very exciting projects for the county borough. And this is one of those very exciting projects, isn't it, Jean and Councillor Baldwin? It is very much about meeting our responsibilities, and we do have responsibilities around the climate change emergency and us shaping that future where renewable energies is very much at the heart of how we power and heat and connect the homes and the businesses of Bridgend County Borough. So that recommendation has been moved by Councillor Baldwin. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Leader.
Second.
Thank you for that, Deputy Leader, Councillor Burnett. And no doubt, as we have had during the whole length of the journey, and it's been a long journey, isn't it, of this this project, I'm sure we will continue to receive regular updates as the project evolves, because it has evolved, and of course it is going to evolve and change, because it is a trailblazing project and we are working with new technologies in a new way, and therefore it is going to continue to evolve in the future. So thank you, Janine, and thank you to the team for the work that they do on this, and a big thank you to the partners as well, because this is very much a partnership project with colleagues in the industry and with respected and experienced academics as well from local universities, and a strong partnership that we have with Welsh Government as well that is driving this forward. So thank you, Janine, and we will now receive your second report today as Corporate Director for Communities, and that is on the plans for traffic signals management in the County Borough. Janine, please.
Okay, thank you, Leader. Yes, a very short report, this one, hopefully. The purpose really of this report is to seek Cabinet approval to suspend the corporate procurement rules to enter into a service level agreement with Rhondda Cynon Taf to manage our traffic signals throughout the borough. A bit of background really to this, Leader and Cabinet. The monitoring and management of traffic signals so far previously has been managed via a joint venture between Capita, Redstart, Rhondda Cynon Taf, ourselves in Bridgend and Merthyr. Now this included monitoring the traffic signals, detecting faults, and then arranging for repairs by a separate procured maintenance contractor. Now, that had worked very well previously, but Rhondda Cynon Taf has taken their traffic management back in-house, and it's resulted in the TUPE of quite a few staff out of the joint venture back to Rhondda Cynon Taf, and that was in March of this year. So the joint venture can no longer manage our lights for BCBC. So RCT have come forward, Rhondda Cynon Taf, and they've offered us the opportunity to have a service level agreement with them to have our signals monitored by them and to continue that work they were doing. Now, I think what is important to note here, Leader, is there's no detriment in service level or cost for us. It will still be around circa £35,000 a year. That's what it was before and will continue. So it is considered this arrangement is appropriate, as it's two local authorities where adjoining neighbours, we've got adjoining road networks. There's lots of shared knowledge of the traffic systems already and the implication on the network, particularly within our valleys communities, because of course you cross seamlessly from one into the other, and how we manage traffic in either side of that boundary line affects each other. Professionals, officers' views have been that that service for 35,000 is excellent value for money, and unlikely we would get anything near that service if we went out to the market. So what we are proposing here, Leader, is that we suspend the council's corporate procurement rules and we enter this SLA with Rhondda Cynon Taf. Now, it doesn't have an end date on it, but it will be terminated or can be terminated without cause on the 31st of March in any year if we gave 12 months notice. That would be fine. The Cabinet do need to be aware, though, paragraph 4.7 of this report, that because we are suspending the corporate procurement rules, that we may be exposed to potential challenges from other providers of specialist monitoring equipment. However, officers are considering that the benefits of joint working with Rhondda Cynon Taf far outweigh the perceived risks in this respect, really. And on balance, the collaboration and this working agreement represents very good value, and it'll also maximise public safety, and that's one of the fundamentals when it comes to managing road networks. So it is our preferred way forward, please, Cabinet. So if I can take you to the recommendations in section 9, and they are for us to suspend the contract procurement routes on this occasion and delegate authority to myself as the corporate director to approve a service level agreement with Rhondda Cynon Taf.
Thank you for that, Janine. Councillor Baldwin, please.
Thank you, Leader. I suppose it's just like buses, isn't it? They come along one after each other. A very simple report and very self-explanatory. The staff that were working for the previous organisation have tupied across to Rhondda Cynon Taf County Borough Council, and they have the appropriate skills and knowledge of our existing traffic control systems. It would be a no-brainer for us at this moment in time to look anywhere else, and would no doubt probably increase in the costs. So I just want to move the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Baldwin. Do I have a seconder for that?
Second.
Okay. Did you want to come in? Thank you for that, Deputy. Did you want to come in, Councillor Burnett?
I was just coming in to second and say that it makes sense to procure from a partner local authority, and keep everything within the public sector, so where the expertise is.
Yeah.
And I think that it's nice to have that relationship with an adjoining authority where we can look at traffic management across boundaries, because of course traffic doesn't respect boundaries, does it? It moves throughout the county. So yeah.
And it's a very good example of how we are always seeking to collaborate, and that is a Welsh Government agenda that has not changed, and it should not change, and we should pool and collaborate those resources as neighbouring local authorities. So is everyone in agreement with those recommendations, please? Yes? Okay.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Third report now of the Corporate Director for Communities, this time on the Bridgend Town Centre Regeneration Master Plan and the consultation on the draft master plan. Janine, please.
Marvellous. Thank you, Leader. Yeah, this is a nice report for this afternoon, I believe. It is the first of a suite of 2 reports. The second one that follows is about a scheme from the master plan. So, but the purpose of this first report is to inform Cabinet of the master plan and the outcomes of the public consultation process that we undertook for 3 months, and it concluded in March of this year, and to request that you agree the next steps in approving the final strategy for Bridgend. Now, I know that you're all very familiar with the background to the master plan, but just for me to highlight a few little things I think might be important to note. It was commissioned back in February 2020, and its intention was to be a key strategic document to create a coherent basis to attract investment and investors, and to deliver a range of economic and regeneration activities, and to support finding future funding for the town centre, because really we can't do this on our own, and we don't intend to. This is something that has to be done in a partnership approach, and the whole idea behind this master plan was to set the scene, and that we can work with investors and partners to really make a difference to the town centre. Now, we appointed BDP consultants after a tender process to help assist in preparing the master plan and consultation with us. As I said earlier, it took place over 3 months, from the 7th of December 2020, and we completed it on the 1st of March this year. Now, section 4 of the report sets out what was included in the master plan, and I won't go into this in any detail because of course we've had many a report onto this, but just to highlight that the master plan was deliberately ambitious. We wanted to set our sights and be ambitious and look at what we could achieve in Bridgend. It set out a series of deliverables over short, medium and long term. And again, that was deliberate because we wanted to continue momentum. It had 4 broad themes in the master plan. It was about growth, about creating resilience, about well-being, and about identity, giving Bridgend Town Centre that identity again. And we formed what we're calling 8 development zones. Now, in the consultation, there were 51 questions. We had over 1,500 clicks on the website to look at the questions, and we had an explainer video up there, and there was over 10,000 views on the explainer video. Now, Appendix C of your report has got the full consultation report in there and responses from officers. But from paragraph 4.12 onwards, these are just some of the headline figures that have come out. Very, very positive overall, the consultation. And incidentally, Leader, we have been with our scrutiny committee through some of this as well, and they were very positive about the consultation as well. So some of the headlines: 84% of respondents agreed with our vision for the town centre. They really liked what we were proposing. They agreed it was ambitious. They thought it needed to be. 83% agreed with proposals to make the new entrance to Bridgend Station in particular. That was very, very well supported. 65% of recipients agreed to move in Bridgend College campus into the town centre to increase footfall, good for economic development. And very high support, 79% like the cafe and cultural quarter, and 87% of people supported the development of a new town square in Bridgend Centre and lots more green space. Now, when it came to things like traffic, it was slightly a bit more of a mixed reception. While overall 65% of people did respond to having traffic back in the town centre, 44% wanted partial reopening of Bridgend town centre to traffic, and 21% wanted all the roads reopening. So that's something we definitely will have a look at. And the one thing I think that was probably the lowest figure that we had was that 41% of respondents said the current provision of public transport was not adequate for Bridgend town centre to get to and from, which is quite disappointing. But of course, what we will do now is seek to speak to those providers, try and get underneath that figure and understand where some of that is coming from, really. Another thing I'd like to draw your attention to very quickly, if I may, is that 81% of respondents thought that the town suffered from antisocial behaviour. And this, I've been speaking to colleagues in South Wales Police, and they believe this is about perception here, because actually the incidence of antisocial behaviour are much lower than the perception of that behaviour in the town centre. So we need to have a look at this for sure and see whether there's things we can do to address this. So officers have reviewed all of the responses and are very confident in progressing to deliver against these projects and these themes that are set out in the master plan. In fact, we're already delivering on a variety of these projects currently with key partners, one of them being the Bridgend College campus in Cheapside, and that is an agenda item that we're going to come to next on the agenda, so I won't say too much about that currently. And also we're meeting in July with partners to look at the improvements to the front of the police station in Bridgend. We're meeting with Transport for Wales, Network Rail, the Cardiff City Region, Welsh Government and the Regional Transport Authority. So lots of movement. So may I take you to the recommendations in section 9, please, Leader and Cabinet? And this is to hopefully endorse the consultation results and confirm that these can be fed into the master plan. Importantly, that we review the policy section of the master plan and ensure that it aligns with our LDP. And our LDP is currently out for consultation, and that's out for consultation until the end of July. And thirdly, to welcome a future report to sign off that final document and to give you updates on those key projects going forward.
Thank you very much, Janine. I'll bring Councillor Smith in then, please.
Yeah, I do lots of slips of the tongue myself. I'm always calling Halo Arwen and Arwen Halo and getting people's names mixed up with each other. But Janine meant to say that we're in consultations with the frontage of the railway station, not the police station.
Oh, what did I say?
You said police station.
Oh, railway station.
Which we're hopefully knocking that down, aren't we, rather than... Anyway, thanks for that, Janine. We've had discussions with lots of interest groups about the master plan. I don't think this is a complete list. I've just jotted these down. We've spoken to the town centre, county borough councillors. We've spoken to the constituency MSs, the regional MSs, the MP, the police, the traders, Bridgend Town Council, and our county-wide town and community council forum, and now through the consultation we've spoken to the general public, and the findings are pretty consistent all along. They're all very positive and supportive of the concept of Bridgend as a county town and a different town centre to what people look back on in the 1950s, and a new town centre for the going towards the 2050s. And I don't think I'm talking out of turn if I say that the good folk of Porthcawl can look forward to a similar exercise, not an identical exercise, because it's a different environment and a different pair of cases, the waterfront at Salt Lake and the waterfront at Sandy Bay. But we are doing a master planning exercise there with consultants, and we will be putting proposals about master planning and placemaking to a similar sort of range of interest groups in Porthcawl. I've got great pleasure in recommending that we accept the findings of this consultation, and it'll lead on very nicely, as you say, to the next item on the agenda, where these big aspirations are actually having some concrete outputs. It's always 50-50 whether I respond to these or whether the cabinet member for communities responds to these reports. Neither of us are precious about it. Perhaps when people get fed up of hearing my voice, it's nice to go to Stuart instead, and vice versa. But this is a great day for the community of Bridgend Town.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Smith has moved the recommendations. Councillor Baldwin, please.
And thank you, Leader. Just in recognition of what Councillor Smith has just said, I'd like to second it. It is an ambitious report and a plan for our town centre, but it's what our town centre deserves, and I look forward to seeing some of the outcomes from it as we progress forward over the next couple of years.
Thanks, Councillor Baldwin. And indeed, it is not simply a wish list or an ambition. We have, as the next item, an example already of how we're going to turn that ambition into reality, and we will do that. I've been very, very pleased with the level of engagement from a wide range of stakeholders, from children and young people to the town council, it's very supportive, to traders, to members of the public. They've all engaged, and they've all been very positive about the vast majority of the projects that we have. So likewise, I'm very happy to support this master plan and the need to align it as well with the local development plan. That is going to be important too. And also, we've worked closely with Welsh Government as one of the key partners, and certainly one of the key funding organisations on this plan, and we will continue to do so as well to make sure that the plan can indeed become a reality. Councillor Burnett, you wanted to come in, please.
Thank you, Leader. Sorry, I just wanted to say, as a local member representing Wolver Ward, which makes up the vast majority of Bridgend Town Centre, obviously I'm aware of this and on different levels, but just to Just to say that we will be working closely with local residents, and that we are aware that there will be issues that of concern, and that they are being raised and they are being looked at and they are being considered. So this isn't a sort of bulldozering of Bridgend without consulting and considering how it's going to impact those of us. There are a lot of us that live in, you know, directly surrounding the town centre area. Bridgend is a very vibrant town centre with a very diverse and healthy mix of residents and traders and community facilities, and we really want to keep it that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett, and it is heartening to see, whilst we've lost some business from the town, we also see new businesses opening all the time, and we need to get behind those businesses and provide support to those businesses.
May I add to what Councillor Burnett has just said, Leader, please?
Yes, of course.
Yes, Councillor Burnett, just to reassure residents in and around the town centre, of course, nothing can go ahead without planning permission in terms of development. And as part of the planning process, of course, we consult widely again. So whilst this master plan is just set in the strategic vision, I suppose, anything that we do bring forward, of course, will be subject to consultation as part of that process, and we will welcome comments on that, as we do with the LDP, which is currently out for consultation as well. So there will be plenty of opportunity for residents to get involved and for us to understand their views.
It's a very important point. There will be a number of opportunities for people to take part in that decision-making process. Councillor Smith, please.
Yeah, I'd like to come in again, like Janine, because Councillor Burnett mentioned bulldozers, and this project isn't about bulldozers at all. But when we've had these meetings with interest groups, I've always made a point of at the very beginning of the meeting mentioning that the word master plan, as we are using it, is different to the 1960s and 1970s property development speculation type master plan. This is a vision for taking the community with us to modernize what's there and to actually use the heritage that we've got and take it forward. It's not like the Colin Buchanan sort of master plans of the 60s where they'd come in and bulldoze a whole community and put a flyover over it for the cars to get to the central business district more quickly. So it's not that sort of master plan at all. And I think that has been appreciated by local residents.
Yeah, I think that's a point well made about that engagement with local members, and let's not lose sight of the as I said, the businesses that are continue to open in the town. I've been really pleased to see the latest project that we have had a crucial role in bringing forward, and that is the mixed-use development that Coastal has opened on Knowlton Street. So a new home for a tapas bar and a cocktail bar with new homes on the upper levels, and that was a property that was empty for a long time and had become very run down. That is now looking very smart and attractive, and it is a home to people, but also to very vibrant businesses. Okay, is everyone in agreement with those recommendations, please? Thank you. Thank you, Janine. And we'll now receive your report on the purchase of proposed purchase of Bridgend Town Centre Police Station, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, this is the first bit of the master plan really coming to life. So it's, you know, I'm very happy to be here and talk about this one today. So the purpose of this report, as you say, Leader, is to update Cabinet on the progress that we've made with regard to the potential purchase of the police station at Cheapside, with a view to supporting the aspirations of Bridgend College, because they would like to relocate their main campus into the town centre. And of course, we would wholly support that as kickstarting the regeneration of the town centre and all of the economic benefits that would come from that increased footfall with students and teachers alike. And the second part of the report really is to seek approval to progress with grant funding to Welsh Government as part of this to support the acquisition and the demolition of the police station building itself. So a little bit of background before I get into the report. So we've just heard about the master plan exercise that we've undertaken on the previous report, and that has set out an ambitious programme for 10 years, the next 10 years. Now, officers during all this time have been working with Bridgend College to support their aspiration to transform their learning environment. I think if anybody has been past their college campus on Cowbridge Road, you'll see that it's slightly out of date and jaded there. And they very much like a new town centre campus. Now, the college have been developing a STEAM academy down in Pencode, supported by Welsh Government, and that's due to open this September. And they've now applied to Welsh Government for the monies for a new campus in the town centre as part of the 21st Century programme. And in April this year, they submitted a strategic outline case to Welsh Government and were successful, which is wonderful news. So that means that their college campus in the town centre is now elevated and is now being considered as part of Band B of the 21st Century School programme. So in essence, some of the funding is now in place for that. Now, in tandem with the work that we've been doing with the college and Welsh Government, we have been speaking with South Wales Police because they have consolidated their offices and they've built a new facility down on Cowbridge Road, and they've declared that the police station at Cheapside will be vacant from March 22. Now, Bridgend College has looked at numerous locations around Bridgend Town Centre. One thing Welsh Government is very keen to do is to promote town centre first as locations because of the footfall, because of bringing in that spend that comes with those students. So they've looked at the feasibility of this police station site for their new campus in terms of massing and height, and really the very fact it was very, very close to the train station, 0.2 of a mile, and we can get a really great active travel route in from the train station to Cheapside, and we can also promote active travel and public transport. So the college were very keen on that location. So section 4 of this report, Leader, sets out what the proposal is. So this is a joint regeneration scheme now, kick-starting our master plan between ourselves at the council and Bridgend College to redevelop a strategically located site in the town centre. And this would act as our first anchor project for the master plan, would create a new and modern environment for our young people to study in, and there would be significant benefit, as we've talked about, from the economics, from daily student footfall and for the economy in Bridgend Town Centre, and not just from footfall, but they have increased spend and demand for services, hairdressers, etc. Now, officers have been working with South Wales Police, with Welsh Government and the college, and the project will be in 2 phases. Phase 1 is BCBC led, and it's to acquire and demolish that existing police station at Cheapside with the aim of leasing that site to the college in the future. So we would retain ownership, we would lease to the college. Phase 2 then would be the college would build out their new facility with funding from Band B of Welsh Government's 21st Century School programme. Now, that town centre campus will have lots of brand new space and will deliver their new teaching programme. It'll have lots of different studio spaces. It'll have an enterprise action hub and also space for performing arts and culture, and also a public plaza for public realm coming out onto Cheapside itself. So improving the environment in the area. Officers have been in discussion with Welsh Government to purchase the site and retain ownership within the public sector, and that's an important point. Then should the college not be forthcoming for any reason, the council will own the land and will look for another regeneration partner, purpose or project. So from section 4.10 onwards in the report, it sets out where we are in terms of finances and moving things forward. We've been having tripartite discussions with the college and South Wales Police, and we've got a district valuer who's come in and agreed a £650,000 purchase price for that police building, and all parties have agreed on that valuation. We've also applied to Welsh Government for a grant from Transforming Towns to assist with this purchase of the building and to demolish the buildings and make good. Now, the grant value from Welsh Government is £910,000 and it has an intervention rate of 70%, which means BCBC ourselves will contribute 390,000, and we have that in regeneration projects. So the total budget for purchasing that land, purchasing that building, demolishing, making the site safe and good is 1.3 million, of which 70% is funded by Welsh Government. Now, whilst we've been on this call, Leader, I've heard some wonderful news. I've just heard that the Welsh Government Capital Panel have met and they've recommended approval of this grant money. So what will happen now is it will go to the Minister for sign-off. So that's really, really good news. We've had that approved. So the next steps for this project then are subject to Cabinet approval today, finalise the heads of terms with South Wales Police, look at a date for them vacating that Cheapside building, prepare the legal agreement for the acquisition, and then South Wales Police also would like a satellite premises in Bridgend Town Centre so they can have a visible presence in the town. And again, that will help with some of the things we talked about in the master plan, the things about the antisocial behaviour and just the sense and feel of being safe. So we'd like to assist them with that. So if I could take you to the recommendations in section 9, please, Leader and Cabinet. And in essence, it's to note the marvellous progress that's been made, to authorise us pursuing discussions to acquire the police station under the land transfer protocol, to authorise officers to engage with Welsh Government on the grant. Well, it sounds like a lot of that has been done because we've now been secured the grant, to receive a further report on the progress and to delegate authority to myself to gladly accept that grant from Welsh Government and to see if we can get on and to get this first really exciting scheme delivered as part of the regeneration of Bridgend. So thank you, Leader. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Janine. That is tremendous news about the grant. I'll invite Councillor Smith to speak now then, please.
I'm going on today, Leader, about this being an historic day. I think this is an historic Cabinet meeting. We've brought together education and regeneration in North Kennelly, and now we're doing the same thing in Bridgend. So many thanks to our regeneration team, our communities team and our education team for collaborating on this. And at a high level, this is a three-way partnership between Bridgend County Borough Council, Bridgend College and Welsh Government. And I noticed that our new member of the Senedd, Sarah Murphy, had an opportunity to put a question to the First Minister today. And I'm very pleased to see that she chose to use that opportunity to promote and to support her hometown and her home county. So that's a very good sort of coincidence. And thank you, Sarah, for that. We will send a bulldozer in now to get that that building down. I don't think anybody's going to lie in front of the bulldozer arguing that this building should be preserved. Under regeneration and all sorts of grants and things, we've assisted in doing that to the old Victorian police station, and it's there as an asset to the town. So I think when people write rewrite the history of Bridgend in 50, 100 years' time, I think that a decision made today will have an impact on what's described in those pages. Thank you, Janine.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. So we've had a mover for the recommendations in Councillor Smith. Do we have a seconder, please? Deputy Leader, please.
Yes, I'm happy to second it, but we won't be knocking it down until after March 22 because the police are still in residence.
Yeah, no.
Oh, did I forget to mention that? Sorry.
Yeah, we let the police leave first.
Yeah.
This is a very exciting opportunity for the local authority to influence a key site in Bridgend Town. So I'm absolutely delighted to be able to support this proposal. Thanks, Leader.
It is brilliant and exciting news for the town, and it's also, as well as a unique opportunity to bring further and higher education into the heart of the town, it's also an opportunity actually to locate the police to a better site in the town centre, much closer to, for example, the licensed establishments. There'll be a much better value in the police being closer to some of those locations in the town. So that's another benefit that we will see from these proposals. Is everyone in agreement with the recommendations that have been moved and seconded, please?
Yes, agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you, everyone.
Agreed.
Thanks so much, Janine, and please pass on our thanks to the team that have worked on the master plan and on the plans for the police station, because they're the same team, and I know much hard work has gone into reaching this stage. The final report that you will be making to us today is on the objection and representation to the proposed active travel route on Cowbridge Road in Bridgend. And I can see, and I'd like to welcome the group manager for planning and development, Jonathan Parsons, the active travel lead officer, Kweku, and the planning and transport officer, Howell, to the meeting, and ask Janine to introduce the report, please.
Many thanks, Leader. Yes, well, I've got the team with me today, Leader.
You have.
The dream team with me today. So what I'm going to do, if I may, is I will introduce the report and take you through the background, and then I'm going to pass over to John and the team to take you through the detailed comments that have come in as part of the consultation, because really that is what we're here to consider today, whether Cabinet as a body can approve to move forward with this scheme. So the purpose of this report in front of you really is to look at the objections and the representations, the formal objections that have been raised on the active travel route that we consulted on a stretch of Cowbridge Road. Now, this is part of the much wider strategic Bridgend to Pencoed active travel route. And the proposals create a permanent active travel facility that has improved crossing facilities. It widens the footways so they become shared walking and cycleways, and it will also reduce the speed limit along Cowbridge Road itself. Now, all of this, Leader and Cabinet, is being funded by Welsh Government's Active Travel Programme. And of course, it's not just, it's foremost in Welsh Government's minds, but it's a key part of our net zero carbon 2030 programme to move to modal shift to more active forms of transport if we can reduce carbon reduction. Now, these objections were received from local residents, some adjacent landowners, and from local councillors. And this report outlines those objections for yourselves as Cabinet to determine. But there's a couple of things I want you to recognise first. The package of improvements is the missing link in the route between Pencode and Bridgend. It's important. This is the link that links the two. This route will link Bridgend Town Centre and Pencode together, and it joins the National Cycle Network 885. So NCN 885 to Pencode, and it's a key part of the Council's integrated network map. Statutory consultations undertook between 12th of March and the 12th of April. It was extended to cover the Easter period, and letters and the plans that were issued are in Appendix 1 that comes with this report. Now, there were 2 local members that put in objections and 19 residents, and these are summed up in detail in Appendix 2 of your report. Now, before I bring John and Quaco and Howell in, there are a couple of things, again, I just want to point out really. Now, officers have considered all the observations regarding these proposals, and they've arrived at final proposals for the scheme. Now, what was agreed is that we would display these final proposals at the civic offices, subject to COVID restrictions, of course. So what we're asking you to consider today, Leader, is to listen to the officers' comments and give approval for the final drawings and the final scheme, and for that to be exhibited moving forward. So I won't go to the recommendations yet. What I will do now is ask Jonathan and the team to come in and explain what those concerns were that were raised, and hopefully allay some of those concerns for you. And then if we're comfortable, we can move on to the recommendations of the report. So John, please may I hand over to you and the team.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Janine. Thank you for that introduction. I think you've set the scene quite nicely there, Janine. I think it's probably worthwhile for members' benefit to highlight some of the areas of concern that were raised by residents and the local members. I think these are very valid concerns, and they do deserve the consideration of this cabinet. Officers have also met with local members on a number of occasions, and we've also provided further information and clarity on the scheme as part of that consultation. This has been going on for a little while, and we have been engaging with the members and the residents affected. As mentioned previously, the concerns that have been raised are highlighted in some detail in Appendix 2, so that there is the more or less verbatim concerns that have been put forward, and also with the officer's response to those concerns. So that is in detail in the report, but I'll just sort of highlight some of the sort of headline concerns that have come forward, and then provide some sort of explanation towards that, and Quaco and Howell will be able to provide some technical input as well, and answer questions that members may have. I think fundamentally one of the main concerns that's been raised, and certainly with the local members, is one of safety. I think there's concerns of safety mainly for residents along the route, and also for users of the route, so that will be cycling that may be affected by vehicles accessing properties along Cowbridge Road. And the route crosses a number of junctions into side streets, and there are vehicular accesses as well along Cowbridge Road. There's been concern raised about lack of risk assessments. I'll come on to that in a moment. There's also queries as to why the route can't be located on the other side of Cowbridge, on the college side of Cowbridge Road. And again, I'll cover that in a bit more detail later on. Residents have reported difficulty in reversing out of the driveways into Cowbridge Road. It is a busy road, it's a busy through road. It serves a number of uses, including the college itself, residential properties, and further down there's also access to the retail park and the police facility. Some of these properties have walls as well, which are may affect visibility. And there's also been a concern raised on loss of on-street car parking. I think it's worth pointing out for the benefit of members that that is Welsh Government policy and has been for some time, and legislation actually through the Active Travel Act to prioritise walking and cycling routes over cars for daily journeys for everyday use, and this is not just recreational or not specifically recreational cycling. This is active travel, and this is getting to and from work, getting to and from college and schools, and also accessing facilities such as shops. Now, this is a big drive for Welsh Government, and Bridgend has also been at the vanguard of that drive for a number of years now, and we've been quite successful in developing our active travel infrastructure with the assistance of grant funding through Welsh Government and through Section 106 contributions. This route in particular was initially drawn up in 2015. And that was part of our original active travel consultation. And what we've got before us is the evolution of that original consultation. So it's a drawn up route, and in the report pack you will see a more detailed plan that shows the exact layout of this particular stretch of the route. The route has been designed in accordance with all the sort of national standards, Welsh Government guidelines and engineering standards. It's something we would have to do. We can't just say, well, that's the route, that's what we'll put in. It's got to be to a certain standard, otherwise it wouldn't receive the funding, and it wouldn't be practical to implement. So it is in accordance with standards. We've also carried out road safety audits as well as part of the consideration of the process. So there's been some risk assessments being done already. One of the other issues raised by members and residents, and this goes back to this issue of safety, is that we did have a temporary route along Cowbridge Road that was implemented under a different sort of funding stream, and that was implemented last year. And it involved the use of temporary barriers to create a cycle lane along Cowbridge Road. Now, it is right to say that scheme has finished, but it was only a temporary scheme. There were a number of issues that were raised as part of that scheme, but it was a temporary alignment. It wasn't a permanent scheme, it wasn't fully engineered, and it wasn't fully drawn up. And the use of the barriers in this case didn't particularly encourage the use of cyclists to use it, and there is anecdotal evidence to say that some of those barriers may have been moved or changed without our knowledge. Nevertheless, it's clearly that there is a need for this active travel link, and as been mentioned earlier, it is a strategic part of our active travel programme, and this is a sort of one of the pieces in the jigsaw that will stretch from Bridgend Town Centre right away through to Bencoed and onto the boundary with RCT. So it's quite an important link. Also coming online as well is the police station development, or the police headquarters development, where we are looking at further active travel improvements and access into that site as well. As I mentioned previously, there have been some risk assessments and audits done, and this scheme itself is also considered to be fully compliant in safety terms. So it has been checked through with our engineering team, and they're fully satisfied that the route meets these minimum criteria. It's true that the route does cross a number of junctions and driveways. That in itself isn't unusual for an active travel route. I think the members were quite concerned that there were a number of junctions in short proximity to one another, and that's been taken into consideration. Ultimately, this is an improvement, or is designed to be an improvement on the current situation, which is that we don't have an active travel route along this stretch of Cowbridge Road. You can cycle along it. It is a road that you can use as a cyclist, but you are competing with traffic, heavy goods vehicles. So it is it's actually a pre-existing condition that you would cycle past these accesses and these driveways if you were seeking to go to work in the police headquarters or trying to access the retail park currently. What the scheme will do is widen the footways to create a shared pedestrian and cycle surface. So it's not making that situation worse, as it were, but it is a big improvement for active travel in that area. Consideration was also given to locating the route on the other side of Cowbridge Road, on the southern side, which is the side that runs alongside the college. Now the difficulty we do in this is that you've got the college use itself with its main access, and there are a number of side pedestrian accesses, but the main access will be within that route. It's a big user. There's a lot of activity there that spans most of the day and sometimes into the evening. You've also got a petrol filling station forecourt that accesses the Cowbridge Road off that point. You also have the junction with Wyndham Crescent at that point. So there's a lot of accesses and activity on that side of Cowbridge Road, which would result in a worse situation then for a cycle route along that side. So that was the main barrier to us moving it to that side of the road. So again, we looked at this in some detail. Our engineering team have looked at this option. Unfortunately, it's not something we can promote or recommend as the better option in safety and cycling terms is on the northern side of Cowbridge Road. The comments that were regarding the manoeuvring of vehicles on a Cowbridge Road, well, that's a pre-existing condition as well. So that's in some cases there's no room to sort of turn your vehicle within the plot of your dwelling on Cowbridge Road. So you will either have to reverse into the driveway or reverse out to the driveway. So that's a pre-existing condition. We don't think that would worsen as a result of excuse me. I can't switch that phone off. So I'm going to answer that in a meeting. Right, sorry about that. It's the joys of working from home. So yes, you're still going to have vehicular movements there, whether the cycleway is there or not. When we had the barriers in place, that yes, you could argue that there was an impediment there, and there was a visibility issue with motorists accessing their driveways. But what the scheme proposes is just a widened footway, which would provide adequate visibility for vehicles entering and accessing those driveways and the junction. So it's not considered to be a detrimental situation, not making that situation any worse than it is. So there's a final sort of main issue that was raised, was the loss of car parking, and there is a net loss of on-street parking. I'll leave Quaker and Howell perhaps maybe confirm the exact numbers, but it's not a great deal of parking. But I will refer you back again, members, to Welsh Government policy, which is, I'll reiterate, is not to encourage additional car parking, but more to encourage active travel routes. So in a sort of a balanced decision, an on-balance decision, the loss of car parking is offset by the benefits that we would get from operating an active travel scheme along this route. So it's in terms of priority, it is the walking and cycling routes that come at the very top of that particular pyramid, with car parking and car access that sort of comes underneath. So it is a concern for residents, for people visiting their homes. I understand that, but we have to balance that up against the overall benefits of providing that route. Now, not included in the pack, but we can provide access to it, is some photographs of a recently completed scheme in Porthcawl. It's not identical to Cowbridge Road. It's actually a stretch of road where the houses actually open out onto the pavement. There's no defensible boundary. There's no front garden, forecourt. They actually open out onto the extended footways, and that works reasonably well. And as you know, it's every route, every engineering project of this nature does have its own characteristics and its own constraints, and Cowbridge Road is no exception to that, and we understand that. But the weight of technical evidence would suggest that the route is acceptable, it is safe. And our recommendation, members, is that you take on board those comments and considerations that were made, and very valid points. However, the benefits from putting the scheme in would outweigh any of these concerns that have been raised. So I'm quite happy for any questions, or if any of my colleagues wish to add to that at all.
Comprehensive introduction to the report. I don't know if Quig or Howell wanted to add anything before I bring Cabinet colleagues in.
Yes, Leader, thank you. I think John referred to the level of on-street parking that will be provided. What exists now, we don't know the exact number of cars that can park there, because the spaces are not marked out or measured, and anybody can park anywhere. What we are proposing is that we are providing an extra 53 meters of space where residents can, or anybody else, members of the public, can park. It is in two sections. One section is 17 meters long and the other is 36 meters long. So in total, you can park at least 8, maximum 9 cars in those slots. Now we have haven't added to or changed the double yellow lines allocation. We have only stretched it slightly, getting to the bridge end, because the carriageway narrows there. So we don't want any parking there. That's why we've only just extended it, to that extent. So the double yellow lines, as you see now, or as we have proposed, are the same, as practically the same length as the exist now. Now, the one or two concerns have been expressed, especially by number 79, which is the property on the corner as you turn into the as the link. Now there's a pinch point there, but only a slight pinch point, and it's been designed and in such a way that residents or users, that is both cyclists and pedestrians, would be asked or required to be careful and cautious, and signage is there for them to dismount and take cognizance of other users of the facility, and that is the only pinch point. Now this scheme has been designed to West Government active travel standards, and we have done road safety audits stages 1 and 2, which is this requirement that we have to do at this stage. Stage 3 will come after the scheme has been implemented. Now, as John said, the ideal location perhaps would have been the south side of Cowbridge Road. But when we did the statutory consultation in 2015, we did sessions at the college and also at Tesco, and that route was what was suggested along Cowbridge Road. The decision as to where to put it, we have to look at the constraints, and as John has already mentioned, we have Wyndham Crescent, which is a very wide junction. We have the Tesco garage, which has got practically 2 junctions plus a college, and very busy junctions. So putting a route there would not be safe. And so the north side of Cabbage Road is the obvious candidate. And we have done schemes of this nature in other parts of the county borough, and crossing driveways has not we don't think should really stand in the way, given the context that has been announced. These have been announced by Welsh Government today, that they're going to stop road building in Wales in order to meet our zero emission targets by 2050. So no more road building in Wales. And if road building is going to give and going to be required to use our cars less, then something has got to make for the shortfall. And so active travel is become the transport capital investment program for the Welsh Government. And for this scheme in particular, whatever its shortcomings or shortfall, we've got to consider that if we do not provide this link, is a big hole, missing link between from the NCN 885 all the way from Tondi, which comes, for those of us who are familiar with Civic, comes right outside Civic offices into town center. And so this route then is going to link from Cabbage Road to the Asda link all the way to meet the Brackla to Bridgend route that we provided 2 years ago. And that is the scheme that we are looking to provide. And so this scheme is about 300 meters long, and it is less than half the link from Griffin Park to Newton Primary along New Road in Porthcawl, which, as John said, goes across people's frontages and practically does open right onto the route. Now, those who are familiar with it, now we have got bollards along the route, because when we first built it, some cars were parking on the route itself. And so we had to provide bollards to prevent people from doing that. And we have also done a similar scheme. Last year we finished in Valinder Road, which also goes across people's drives. And for number 89, Cabbage Road, for instance, has raised concern that she would not be able to do reverse maneuvers into her driveway. That has been taken into consideration, and we have used computer tracking to ensure that it's been designed in such a way that she can align into the crossing points to reverse into her driveway. It is true that we have narrowed the carriageway a bit, but it is not to such an extent that it imperils her in her ability to reverse into her driveway.
Yeah, Leader, do you mind if I come in? Thank you, Quaco. Very comprehensive response there. I think what I would like to provide assurances with is that everything that we have designed, or everything that we're proposing, is very much in compliance with all relevant safety guidance from Welsh Government and transport guidance. There's nothing that we have planned that isn't considered safe and isn't considered part of existing guidance, and it hasn't been done elsewhere. So just to be clear, that people are concerned, there's a perception of concern, but what we have designed is a very, very safe and compliant active travel route. Just to make that very clear.
Okay, it's useful, Janine, and the most important consideration is around safety. Safety must always come first, mustn't it? And you're reassuring us that there's been assessments as part of the process, and there's standard assessments.
Absolutely.
That have to be undertaken on all schemes.
Absolutely.
And
whilst we're incredibly committed to active travel, of course we are, the primary concern is the safety of those that are on that route, that are using the active travel, and of course the primary safety of householders, people who are in cars. That has to be the primary concern of any route that we put in active travel route. And of course that we consider that this route has considered all of those variables, and it is compliant. Yeah, okay. Absolutely, Leader.
Okay, that's an important assurance to have. Councillor Baldwin, please.
Thank you, Leader. And I just want to thank the team again for such a comprehensive report. And a lot of the questions that I still had in relation to this report have all been answered around where the route goes after it gets to Asda, and we've heard that picks up on the Brackla route that was already installed, and around the complexity of and examples of the complexity of this type of route. And we've already heard that there is a similar example in Porthcawl, but also about the fact that these complex active travel routes are in all of our major cities across the UK. So I listened and read all of the concerns that were raised by the residents and by the ward councillors for this, and again, this was one of my very first tasks. It's like, congratulations, here's your post as cabinet member, here's your first thing of going to a meeting in relation to the appeals and objections against this. And so it was a difficult report, to a difficult meeting that I first attended, but a very comprehensive report and feedback today. And I've listened to the way that we are progressing our active travel and the agenda of the way the Welsh Government is going, and the requirement for us to make sure that this is the last part of our active travel route, to make sure that we are joining it up. So I've listened to the safety concerns and everything, and I'm unable to see anything else that I can ask. So my last part of this is to just say that I'm going to have to move the report and agree with what officers are asking in relation to this report. Thank you, Leader. Mute.
Yeah. Apologies, only the fourth time I've done that today. Apologies, long meeting. Councillor Smith is next, please.
I second the recommendations, Leader. I class myself as a leisure cyclist, a commuting cyclist, a shopping cyclist, everything except a racing cyclist. And I think this is one more step towards what I think should be our ambition, which is a complete alternative travel system covering the whole of our county. So we've linked up the county town with the second most important town in the county, which is Pencode. Next, we've got to link ourselves up directly with Porthcawl and Maesteg, and I'm not going to dare put any of those two in any sort of order of priority. But that's what we need: is we need Bridgend to be the hub, and we need to have safe cycling routes radiating out to those other towns, and then interconnecting web in between those. And can't wait to be going along this new cycle route in my newly electrified, amazing British-built Brompton folding bike.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Smith. And we've got the Deputy Leader, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Could I just ask the officers to clarify a point? It's in response to Councillor Boyce's submission, and that is that there are no viable alternatives. So I'm just wondering what alternatives were considered and how they were discounted, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you for that, Deputy Leader. Who wants to respond to that question, please?
John, who's best to respond to that one?
I can come in there. I think Councillor did make that point, but I think we discounted the other alternative, which was to place the route on the other side of Cowbridge Road. I think that was the sort of main alternative that we had to consider. It's there could have potentially been other options to bring it through other parts of the road network, but they don't offer the same capacity as Cowbridge Road, and unfortunately. So this was the active travel route that was identified back in 2015, and we consulted on at that particular time. So I sadly, I don't think there are any other viable alternatives.
Thank you, Johnson. Quaker, did you want to come in?
Yes, please, Leader. Just to add to John's, when we did the consultation in 2015, that was the route that those who attended the events kind of selected, and they were right. Now, the active travel guidance in selecting a route says that we should have a route that is direct and does not kind of meander around, and we're given, if you like, thresholds of population. Settlements 2,000 population and above must be connected. It must be connected by the most direct route possible. So if we're going to connect Pencoed or Bridgend to Pencoed, the Carbridge Road is the most direct route to connect it. Because if the alternative would be to go south and go along the A48, but where would it connect? You know, it wouldn't be connecting Bridgend Town Centre. Or we could go Colchester Road to bring to junction of Singleton and then turn right to go under the bridge. That is a big impediment. That was what stood in the way of the Colchester Community Access Plan in 2010. So Carbridge Road is the most direct route to link to Tesco police headquarters, both big employment areas and shopping areas, through the roundabout, which we've already done, and then along the A473, which is what we're going to do now. Originally, we're going to take it through the industrial estate along the Kingsway to link into Colchester Road. Now we find that with proposed developments coming up along the A473, the A473 route will provide the most direct. So it links the two roundabouts, Waterton and Colchester roundabouts. Colchester, which we've already done. This March, we finished Waterton roundabout. So that links it onto the A473, which we did in 2011-12. That's linking Colchester and Pencoed, and then straight through. So we've done all these schemes in stages. And so this link along the A473, which is, along Carbridge Road, which links directly to A473, is the most seamless route between Bridgend and Pencoed. And it meets the active travel requirements set by Welsh Government that routes between settlements must be the most direct. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Quaco. That's very helpful. That you have considered, the Tremaines Road and the A48 as alternatives, and that the Cowbridge Road is the most direct route. I accept that. Therefore, now the only issue, I suppose, is this the conflict, isn't it, between pedestrians and cyclists? And you do mention that there are dismount signs. So can you just clarify where these dismount signs are going to be placed on that stretch?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. The dismount signs will be placed around the corner property of junction property number 79 and the junction linking into going to the Asda link. That's where, because that's where the pinch point is. So cyclists will be required to dismount, and it's only a small stretch of track, and I think we managed to just squeeze in just about 2 meters there. We couldn't meet the standard there, but Welsh Government accepts that these pinch points and constraints would exist, especially where we are retrofitting, putting new routes in old settlements. But we shouldn't let such constraints imperil the provision or delivery of such a route. Now, if we have to consider that if we provide the whole of the scheme and this remains the missing link, people will still cycle or want to cycle, and so they either cycle on the carriageway or on pavements, which they aren't supposed to do, and that will be a greater danger to motorists, cyclists, pram users, pushchair users, wheelchair users, and cyclists. Everybody who uses both the pavement and the carriageway would be in danger. What we're doing is designing a scheme that gives right of way to each user of the carriageway, so that those who cycle would have a dedicated route to cycle on, which share with pedestrians, and is there for every user of the carriageway to take due cognizance of each other. If we don't do it, people will still be cycling or would want to cycle and walk or use wheelchairs haphazardly in areas where they're not supposed to, and that would be encourage bad behavior, and perhaps that even result in bigger accidents.
Well, I think the existing width at the actual pinch point is about 1.25 meters now. So with the improvement we've put in, it's just under 2 meters, like Quaco said. So 1.96, a big improvement over the kind of existing situation.
And what
Sorry,
you're
did you just say, so, can I just clarify something? Did you say that you can legally cycle on the pavement?
No, you can't.
No,
No,
I
you can't.
thought I got
No.
that bit wrong. Yeah.
No,
okay,
so
sorry,
I
yeah.
mean, what I meant is that currently anybody, well, they're not supposed to cycle on
Yeah.
pavements, but people do.
people do.
Yes.
People
Yeah,
do,
yeah, they
and
do.
so there are those who want to cycle,
Mm.
choose to cycle on pavements or on the carriageway, which would be dangerous. But what we're going to provide now is to provide people a dedicated place on where they can cycle,
Yeah.
and then cars can also use the Lycra Brigade can cycle on the carriageway if they want, but those who want to take it easy can cycle on the provided route.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for that response. I'm satisfied that we've done all we can to mitigate the risks of collision. So I'm happy to support the recommendation, Leader.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. Councillor Burnett is next, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I just wanted to share with people that well, we went to the wonderful resource centre by Liddell's, which is which our dementia team and adults with complex learning difficulties are based, and one of the managers there cycles every day to and from my Stag. And so we know that a lot of our staff, and I'm sure a lot of police headquarters staff, are using our routes to cycle back and forth every day, and that initiatives such as this will make a big difference to their safety and their journey times potentially. So it's something that we have to do. There is a need for it. I am concerned. I do share some of the same concerns as were raised, and one of which is how will motorists know when they're exiting out of the junctions. How will they know? What sort of signs will be at the junction to let them know that they need to be looking in both directions rather than just to the right, which is what we're conditioned to do as motorists. You look one way. You do look both ways, but you consider one direction that you know the traffic is going to be coming from, but obviously traffic's going to be coming from both directions from cyclists. So how will motorists be aware of that, please?
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Burnett. Quaco, please. Sorry, on mute, Quaco. That's okay.
Yeah, thank you. As road users, we all have to be careful and watch out for each other. And it's incumbent on all of us to observe the rules. But this scheme has been designed in such a way that giveaway signs have been given for cyclists to stop when they see a vehicle entering or exiting their driveway, and that is what is being done. And they have to observe. And also, when people are pulling out of their driveways, they have to look around to see, even in residential streets where there are no cycle routes and people have got driveways which open onto pavements, they have to take account of what is around them. But the important thing is that the scheme has been designed so that the onus of responsibility rests with the cyclist or the pedestrian or the wheelchair user to stop at the stop line to enable a vehicle to enter or exit its driveway.
Thank you, Quaco. I've also got another point as well, if I may. I just wanted to make sure that there was going to be communication with the college, because I am aware that college attendees often walk around in big groups and are not single file along the pavements and main. So are we going to have some? Are we going to be instructing the college then to keep communicating with that this is a cycle route and that the pavements will be used in a different way to how they are at the moment?
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Quaco, did you want to come back on that?
Yes, Leader. We did consult the college, both during the statutory stage, and actually we did hold one of our sessions, in the college, and consulting them or engaging them at this last stage where we are at the moment. So they are aware of it, and the college has been a very good, if you like, corporate citizen in Bridgend, and they are one of our travel plan champions, and they support us in all these things that we do. So once the scheme is there, we'll let the college know that something like this is around and that their students should be aware of it. We have worked, they are a good partner of ours, and we work with them closely on both campuses, both Bridgend campus and Pencoed campus. And they in their Pencoed campus expansion, actually, they did make a contribution by 106, which we're going to use towards the link we are building currently between Velindre Road and the college. So we will let them know that this new facility exists, and then the students should take account of it.
It's a good point, Councillor Burnett. Thanks for that, Quaker. They are indeed a very willing partner with us on active travel, aren't they? And they're an important potential group of users for those active travel routes. Janine, please.
Yes. Thank you, Leader. Just to wrap up the conversation, I suppose, but back to the recommendations, hopefully. So what we are asking today, just to make clear, because we've had quite an informed discussion, haven't we, is that we have now considered the objections that we've received, and hopefully the team have provided reassurances to you that we have constructed a very, very safe route in line with regulations for Welsh Government. And what we would recommend today is that you dismiss those objections now and you authorise us to complete the final link, to put that approved final drawing out for everybody to note, and that you approve those changes we've made to that drawing, and it can go up for exhibition. So what we're asking is, are you content today from what we've said for us to continue with the scheme and dismiss the objections?
Can I just ask before we do that, Janine, both Councillor Voice and Councillor Walters have been very diligent in representing their constituents' views, to be fair to them, and also have undertaken extensive correspondence with officers, and as they should, they've represented the views of some of their constituents who obviously have concerns about this. One specific point I have been asked about, and I asked about, and I know that Councillor Walters has emailed again officers about that this week, is around the deployment of an active travel route along a series of junctions. And you were saying that does take place, and where it has taken place elsewhere in Bridgend County Borough in Wales, there is evidence from that use and from that design that that is a safe design, and people do adapt and change their behaviour, though you can never make guarantees about any design, can you, in terms of how people respond to that, but that design has been deployed successfully elsewhere. And finally, can you also assure us that if this is progressed, that if we find that risks have increased and there are accidents as following any change, then of course we will consider those accidents and take appropriate action to mitigate that. Though at this stage, obviously, we are proposing the design that our experts and our engineers are considering to be a safe design. Sorry, there are a number of points there, but I think it's important.
Not at all. Not at all. Yes, it is a Welsh Government compliant active travel route scheme. So with regard to do schemes cross junctions like this? Yes. all over Wales, in all cities, in fact, all across the UK, leader, there are junctions, and it's quite normal to cross a junction like this. But there are mitigations that are put in place when you come to crossing junctions, and that is what we've added to our scheme. So our scheme, yes, it does comply with everything that would be regarded in an active travel management, and this is how schemes are delivered in Swansea, in Cardiff, in all other boroughs across Wales as per those guidelines. Yes, they are the compliant guidelines. Now, with regard to if there are any issues, as it stands, we're comfortable that we are following all guidance and there's signage in place. Of course, it is about people's culture and people changing behaviours. I'd like to think there wouldn't be any accidents because we feel our route is safe. But of course, if there were issues, yes, of course, we would review the situation and we would look whether there was more guidance, more signs, or whatever we would need to do, because we want to make sure our network is safe. But to say this is about culture change now, this is about increasing the numbers of people who use bikes and travel on roads, and this is about us all going on this same journey. But so 2 points then. Number one, yes, it's compliant and it's no different to other schemes elsewhere in Wales and the UK. And number two, of course, we would review.
Okay, thank you, Janine. That's very helpful. Councillor Baldwin, please.
Thank you, Leader. And I suppose it's just, and I'm glad Kelly is here as well, so I can be corrected if wrong. Dismissal to me sounds a little bit as if we haven't considered, and I wonder whether that is just the legal term that we need to use, or are we allowed to acknowledge but set aside those concerns that have been raised in relation to the report and still move forward? So is the word dismissal a requirement that we have to use it? Because I don't want it to sound from a negative point of view.
I'm not sure it is a legal terminology, and I will defer to Kelly for that one, if I may.
Monitoring officer then, please. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Leader. I don't know whether that is the phrase that's in the legislation, and perhaps Jonathan will have to confirm that. But I think what Cabinet need to do is note the objections that have been raised, give them due regard, and then consider in light of those objections whether you still want to proceed, knowing the issues that have been raised.
Okay. I feel more comfortable with not dismissing it, that we've noted and paid due regard and still moving forward.
Yeah. I understand the point you're making. I'm sure all Cabinet members and officers do as well, and no doubt it is about the language that sometimes is used in the relevant legislation, or indeed in the legal language, because we have considered the points that have been made in depth. And my final point would be that. Just clarity for anyone who is listening, Janine, around the public exhibition for a specific period of the drawing. Can we just be clear about the purpose of that, if the decision has been made?
Yes, the purpose of that, Leader, is to show that we've listened to the concerns that have come through, that we've amended the designs where we have, and this is the finalised design that's been approved and will be implemented, so that people can come and see that. Yeah,
they can see it, but it's not for any further
no, it's the final design.
Comment or change. It is the final drawing, and its exhibition is simply to notify people that this is the final design. Okay.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So it's been moved by Councillor Baldwin. It's been seconded as well. Is everyone in agreement with the recommendations that have been outlined? Okay.
Agreed.
That's Councillor Burnett, Councillor Smith and Deputy. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if Councillor Patel as well. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
Sorry, yes, I am. I couldn't get to the mute button quick enough.
Okay, thank you. So that is everyone. Okay, and my thanks also, and a very warm welcome to Howell. I think this is your first Cabinet meeting as well. So
thank you very much. Thank you, Leader.
First meetings, and you're doing an excellent job in the team. You've doubled the size of the team, so we're able to double the output. I'm sure. Quakerwood Lass has got some backing and support. So very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
Well, and doing an excellent job. And look forward to seeing you all again soon. Well, no doubt we'll be hearing progress on other active travel schemes across the borough. Thank you all. Thank you very much, Janine. We're now going to give you a break, actually, Janine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to invite our interim Section 151 officer, interim chief officer for finance, performance and change to introduce a report on the revenue budget outturn for 2020 to 2021. So over to you, please, Jill, at 6:10. Apologies, colleagues, but it is an exceptionally long agenda, and both this item and the next item have to be considered before tomorrow's meeting because they are on the agenda for full council. So what I may suggest, Jill, because I know you always give full and comprehensive reports, as you should, given the importance and the level of detail in these reports, you may want to, whereas ordinarily you would give full reports to both, you may want to précis some of it. And give that level of detail as we'll all be present at the meeting tomorrow. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Leader. I will do my very best to summarise, but I think it's really important that Cabinet do consider the outturn positions. So for the purposes of the recording, my name's Jill Lewis. I'm the Interim Chief Officer, Finance, Performance and Change, and I have with me today Deb Exton and Joe Norman, who will be happy to give you any detail and help me to answer the questions on the outturn position. So the purpose of the report, as the Leader has alluded to, is to provide Cabinet with an update on the Council's revenue financial performance for the year ended 31st of March 2021. So on the 26th of February 2020, the Council approved a revenue budget of 286 million. And you have received regular budget monitoring reports throughout the year on this, and this is the annual revenue outturn. So at 4.1, you'll see a summary of the financial position, and I'd just like to draw Cabinet's attention to the narrative before going into the detail, because I know this is a phrase that's been used time and time again, but it has been a year like no other. And I've never, ever seen the financial position change so much during the years. So I think it's really important that I draw attention to that, because the position does look very different from how we'd anticipated it as a Cabinet. So the first thing I'd like to draw attention to is the hardship fund. As you know, Cabinet, the Welsh Government set up a COVID hardship fund at an early stage of the pandemic, which was around 189 million. And we were able to draw on that through submission of detailed monthly claims that I have to say Deb and Joe slaved over for the cost and the loss of income. However, there was a time lag because obviously they had to make sure that the decisions were quite properly executed in terms of governance, and also that they were consistent across Wales, so that the right things were sort of given credit to. And some of those decisions gave us a time lag on whether we would be successful. Now, as you will know, I've said to Cabinet previously we were successful, and as a consequence, significant funding was received in the last quarter of the year. The second point I just want to draw attention to is the significant grants that we received in the last quarter. Very generous from the Welsh Government in terms of a number of different service delivery streams, and whilst very, very welcome and very much needed for the future, obviously that gave us a significant change in our financial position at a late juncture. So we received at least 3.5 million for directorates and council-wide and 5.4 million for schools. And I will just return briefly to that piece on schools. We also received around 1.3 million as a result of our loss of council tax collection from the pandemic, again, which is very, very welcome and I think will be needed going forward. We haven't come out of the pandemic and we will be facing significant risks on our council tax collection, I believe, for some time to come. So as a result, the year-end position changed considerably, and you'll see from the table, it's on page 387 of the pack, the level of investment that this has been enabled by this level of grants and support, some of which are included in the capital report later in the agenda, but you can see from that table that we've been able to invest considerably for the future in recovery. So I just wanted to draw attention to that. The rest of the report is very similar to the format that you receive on budget monitoring. The council's outturn position is shown in table 1. The overall position is an underspend of 432k, which has been transferred to the general fund, bringing that to 9.7 million, which is in line with our MTFS principles, round about just over 5%, which is where you've heard me say a number of times that we need to be. So the total directorate budgets show a net underspend of 5.8 million and the council-wide budgets 11.7 million. Now, you will never have seen figures like those. Hopefully, those will help us to fund the ongoing risks and initiatives to assist the council with a very much needed recovery from the pandemic, and also the increased costs on delivering a huge number of our services. So the late notification of monies, whilst extremely welcome, has resulted in a swing from Q3 to Q4 of £13 million. So as your 151 officer, I have to bring that to your attention. It wasn't something that I could have forecast, but and obviously it will be very much welcome for the future. Table 2 shows the movements since Q3 and at 4.18, this is probably one of the final points that I need to make. The underspend from the additional monies obviously significantly masks what is still an underlying deficit position in many of the directorates and indeed in many of our schools. And I think that's really important. Home to school transport and adult social care alone have got a combined overspend of £2 million. So some of this additional money obviously could give the reader of the report the wrong impression. But I know Cabinet understand the position, but I just need to focus on that to make sure that nobody thinks that we've got an awful lot of money going forward. So uncertainty for the future remains. Pay and price costs, inflation and recovery will all need funding, along with the potential pressure obviously on council tax collection and the council tax reduction scheme. And there are a number of tables in the report. At 4112, it sets out the impact of COVID on the council's financial position. The council supported residents as far as possible through COVID, and Table 3 and 4 set out the claims against the Welsh Government Hardship Fund and the amount received. The Hardship Fund will continue until September. There's no word on whether it will continue past September, hence my comments about the risks facing us once the Hardship Fund runs out. Table 5 sets out the prior year budget reductions, and Table 6 last year's budget reductions. Despite COVID, we were still reasonably successful in achieving our savings targets, so that's to be commended. And Table 7 gives an explanation as to why some of them may not have been achieved. From 4.3 onwards gives some more detail on the financial position. I won't go into any of that now, as time is obviously at a premium, and but happy to take, we'd be happy to take any questions. The last point I want to raise at 4.31 is the schools. And you will see the significant change in school balances from where we were forecasting 108k surplus in total to 8.49 million at the year end. And you'll see all the detail of the grants and the reasons why we have received them for the additional costs that are likely to be incurred going forward in our schools. Those balances will be managed in line with our financial protocols to make sure that they're spent according to the terms and conditions, and we'll be closely monitoring that spend. 441 provides a commentary on the earmarked reserves with the detail in Appendix 5, and Table 8 shows the drawdown, and Table 9 shows the year-end position, with Table 10 giving you the total reserve position. So that's a very, very brief canter through a huge report. I hope that's given you enough and a flavour of the outturn. Thank you, Leader. I'll take you to the recommendation, sorry, at 9.1.
No, and thank you for that, Jill. And I know you provide so much more detail if it wasn't 20 past 6.
Absolutely.
And what I would say is that, of course, we've this is an outturn report, and we have quarterly update reports. So much of this has been reported, though, of course, so the underlying pressures have. But what has changed in the last quarter is that payout from Welsh Government and those additional grants that can often come in the last quarter, but you don't know about them till they come in. And also to just make the point that the report has been published and people have had the opportunity, haven't they, Jill, to contact you, as they always do, to ask any questions that they want about the finance. We're very transparent set of financial procedures and rules, and we set the budget, the medium-term financial strategy, in good faith and according to the circumstances that were in place back in February. But already the financial world has moved on almost beyond recognition again, and it may well do, and it probably will, within the next couple of months, actually. So that is the turbulence that we face as an authority, and we have to continue to be cautious. Deputy Leader, please.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. And I think, as Jill has mentioned, the figures in this report are just unreal, and couldn't possibly have been predicted at the beginning of the year when we set the annual budget at council. I am just very relieved that we got through the year and we didn't have any major sort of catastrophes. And it's a huge thanks to the finance team, the amount of support that we've provided to local businesses. Now we've got millions of pounds out the door. We've provided free school meals for children that couldn't get to school. It's just been an incredible effort by the whole team, and I'm just so appreciative for all staff across the authority. And obviously, I'm appreciative of the Welsh Government, because if they hadn't bailed us out, then we would be in a very different position here today. A very different position. You know, we've had £21.5 million worth of money from the hardship fund, and that has kept us afloat and has made sure that there'd be no major service failure across the county borough. So I'm happy to move the report, Leader, and you know, it's sort of I hope we can just move forward now to the recovery phase, because like you said, we're not out of the woods yet.
No, we're not. We're not. Okay, thank you for that, Deputy Leader. Do we have a seconder for the recommendations? We moved by the Deputy Leader.
I'll second those, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. You're a very good cabinet member. Okay, and then we've got agreement with that, and obviously that this is presented to full council tomorrow. Yeah.
Agreed,
okay. Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Yeah. And of course, that's a new step, or a restoration of a reporting mechanism used to be in place. But as ever, we follow the best practice, don't we, Jill? And that's what we're doing. Okay. Yeah. So the next report from our Section 151 officer is the capital programme update. Jill, again, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. For the purposes of the recording, Jill Lewis, Interim Chief Officer, Finance, Performance and Change. And again, I have Deb Exton and Joe Norman with me, should you have any questions on the report. So the purpose of this report is to seek agreement from Cabinet to present a report to Council for approval for a revised capital programme for 2021 to 2030-31, and that's set out in detail in Appendix A. So again, on the 24th of February, Council approved a capital programme covering 2021 to 30-31. And since then, we've reviewed the available capital resources, taking into account uncommitted funding, the year-end revenue position for 2021, the earmarked reserve position, and indeed revenue budgets available for 21-22. And as a result, there's some new capital schemes have been proposed. And I just wanted to stress that these have been through rigorous review, both by CMB and challenge by peers, and also the Cabinet have gone through them in huge detail and prioritised the money that we want to invest in recovery. So this report is not the outturn on capital. You've just had the revenue outturn. The outturn on capital will come to Council in July. This report, as you will be familiar with, is seeking approval for the inclusion of the new schemes in the capital programme. So in July then, the report that will come to Council will show the updated capital programme for 21-22 onwards, the slippage, which, as you know, is considerable from 2021, and the prudential and other indicators. So the capital programme that you approved in February 21 totaled 206 million, which is met from 116 million of BCBC resources and the balance from external resources. The new schemes will be funded from earmarked reserves, which have been set up for the purpose, and from unallocated general funding received through 21-22 local government settlement and the public realm funding. I also need to refer to one scheme for a school that you'll see in the report that needs approval through a Salix loan. And the total for all these schemes is 4.5 million, which obviously represents a really welcome investment in new initiatives. So those are shown in Table 1, with Table 2 showing the breakdown of funding. And at 4.4, it sets out the detail on each of those schemes. So I take you to the recommendations at 9.1. So hopefully that was quick enough, Leader.
It was very rapid. Thank you, Jill. Much appreciated. Deputy Leader, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Happy to move the report. Obviously, there's some very exciting new schemes in there. Not least the replacement of our CCTV system that will go to council tomorrow, and the footpath refurbishments, playground refurbishments. All some very welcome new schemes in there. So happy to move the report.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Leader. There are some important investments that revenue outturn statement that we referred to earlier, Jill, will enable us, I hope, to progress with Cabinet colleagues and all members' support tomorrow, because it is investment that's undoubtedly needed in the across the county borough, and it gives us that flexibility, because the capital programme is heavily oversubscribed, isn't it, Jill? This helps us address some of those, but not all of those challenges going forward. Actually, do we have a seconder for for that recommendation, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you. Everyone in agreement?
Aye.
Yes, Leader.
Thank you, colleagues, and we'll discuss that further tomorrow. And then thank you for that, Jill. We've got then the next report, which is on the proposed suspension of our contract procedure rules. And again, that is, I'm just checking, that is also a report of the interim Chief Officer for Finance, Performance and Change. So Jill, over to you again then, please.
Thank you, Leader. Jill Lewis, the Interim Chief Officer, Finance, Performance and Change, for the purpose of the recording. So you can see at 1, the purpose of this report is to seek approval to continue the delivery of the existing financial advice and support service, to allow time for a fully compliant tender process to take place, including an adequate mobilisation period, to suspend the relevant parts of the Council's contract procedure rules with regards to the requirement to re-tender the contracts detailed in this report, and to authorise the Head of Partnership Services to enter into a short-term 4 months contract with the current provider to ensure continuity of service. So this is the contract that was first let in 2018, with a successful bidder being the CAB in Bridgend. And the contract assists residents on a number of areas set out in paragraph 3.2. It's been highly successful and has helped significant numbers of residents who have had difficulties in these areas. And it continues to increase the numbers that are coming through the door, sadly, who have difficulties, but it's one of the big contributors to our anti-poverty agenda in helping people to get out of that poverty trap. So the contract was due to expire on the 31st of March. It's been extended by delegated power, but due to the COVID pressure, there hasn't been enough time to complete the retendering exercise and mobilisation to give adequate time. So we believe we can complete this exercise by November, and so we're asking Cabinet to suspend the CPRs to allow the additional 4 months of the contract to take place. So I take you to the recommendations at 9.1, Leader.
Okay, thank you for that, Jill. Councillor Burnett, please.
Sorry, thank you, Leader. Yeah, happy to move this report. I think the Citizens Advice Bureau have done an absolutely sterling job, and I know a lot of members of my community who have called on their assistance for the first time this year, having never been placed in the sorts of difficulties. Unprecedented times again. So yeah, I really appreciate the expertise and skills and patience and empathy that the staff project and how they're able to help people in dire straits.
Sad but true, they have been invaluable to so many people, record numbers of people in Bridgend, and we need to make sure that service continues until we can recommission it as part of the process. Councillor Baldwin, please.
Thank you, Leader, and happy to second that report as well. And just for clarity, I know that Councillor Patella declared a prejudicial interest at the start of the meeting, and just for the recording, she is not in this meeting and left before the item was discussed.
She has gone, yes, and I think the reasons given there to extend the contract to compelling, and I'm happy to support it as well. So is everyone in support of that?
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We'll now, and thank you for that, Jill. Much appreciated. We'll now move on to the representation on outside bodies and joint committees, and that is a report of our Chief Officer for Legal, Human Resources and Regulatory Services.
We need to just for call Councillor Patel.
I do indeed. That's a very good point, actually, Deputy Leader, and I'm glad you've you've made it, because otherwise we'd carried on without her. So please do ask her to rejoin the meeting.
Are you happy for me to start, Leader?
I am happy for you to start. I have no intention of spending the night in the civic offices, so you carry on. I'm sure Councillor Patel will pick up wherever you
Thank you. The purpose of this report today, members, is to seek Cabinet's approval for the appointment of members to joint committees and the nomination of members to outside bodies. A list of the relevant committees and bodies is appended to your report at Appendix 1. A review has been undertaken of the appointments of councillors to ensure the relevance and appropriate of membership ongoing. Members will be aware that, as usual, they will be appointed for a term of 1 year, except where earlier revocation is appropriate. Where Cabinet members are nominated, it's on the basis of the member's role within the authority, and the appointment is attached to the role and not to the individual member. All appointments are made with the assumption that appointees represent Bridgend County Borough Council, and therefore, should any appointee cease to be a borough councillor, they will cease to represent the authority and will relinquish their appointments as necessary. Therefore, members, I take you to the recommendation at paragraph 9 and ask you to appoint the members as set out in Appendix 1.
Thank you for that. Kelly, Deputy Leader, please.
Move the report.
Do I have a seconder for that report and recommendation? Yes, I heard a seconder then.
That was me. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. Everyone in agreement with those recommendations, colleagues? Yeah. Okay, so the next item we have is a report on the Forward Work Programme. That is also a report of the monitoring officer. Kelly, please.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of this report is to seek your approval for items to be included on your forward work programme for the period the 1st of July to the 31st of October 2021, and for Cabinet to also note the Council and overview and scrutiny forward work programmes for the same period. Cabinet will be aware that this is a requirement of the Constitution. The proposed work programmes are set out in Appendix 1, 2 and 3, and therefore I take you to the recommendations at paragraph 9.
Thank you for that. Kelly, Deputy Leader, please.
Move the report, Leader.
Do I have a seconder for the recommendations, please?
Happy to second. Now I'm back.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Patel, and welcome back to the meeting. And if everyone's in agreement with those recommendations on the forward work programme, yes, we will move on to the final item on the agenda, which is to receive any urgent items. And I have not received any items of business that by reason of special circumstances that I consider to be urgent in accordance with the rules, and therefore I will bring the meeting to a close. Thank you all for your attention.